Hey everybody, how's it going out there? Welcome to Good Movies and Music. Hope you're having a good day so far. So today we are back with another album reaction, and if you didn't know, we are doing a countdown of sorts. I'm reacting to the top 12 albums of 2020, and that's based on their Metacritic ranking. And the reason I'm doing that is because the past couple of years I've just kind of fallen behind on what's new in music. You know, the past couple of years I've really gotten into a lot of music from the 60s and the 70s, and also I think because of the pandemic I've just gotten really nostalgic about the music from my youth, you know, just stuff from the late 90s and early 2000s, just kind of revisiting a lot of that stuff. But consequently, I've just really fallen behind on new music. But as a lifelong music fan, I pride myself on at least being familiar with what's going on out there. So I thought that'd be a pretty good project for this channel, is catching up on all the best music from last year. And that brings us to today's album reaction, which I'm excited to say we are now in the top 5 of the Metacritic albums of 2020. And the album for today is Punisher, and the artist is Phoebe Bridgers. If I'm being honest, pretty sure the first time I ever heard of Phoebe Bridgers, I read her name in a headline, and I honestly thought it was a typo. I thought they were trying to refer to Phoebe Waller-Bridge, but now I know better. And speaking of knowing, one thing we do on this channel, because I really, beside that, don't really know much about Phoebe Bridgers, one thing I like to do before I jump into the music is just do a little bit of light research, just to give myself a little bit of context about what I'm about to listen to. Let's see, yeah, so we have 90 for the Metacritic score, 8.9 for the user score. Appears to have a lot of contributions, including from Conor Oberst, Bright Eyes fame, and the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, as well as Warpaint, which, unless there's another band that is a Warpaint cover band that sings about beer, I don't think it's Warpint, but somebody let Metacritic know they've got a typo here. So Phoebe Bridgers, she's an American singer, songwriter, guitarist, and producer from Los Angeles. 4 Grammy nominations, okay. You never know, you know? Like, there's a lot of music that is, you know, really critically appreciated, but when it comes to award season, just doesn't get the recognition that it deserves sometimes. It just happens a lot, and seems to be happening a lot more and more lately. As far as genres, we have indie rock and emo folk. I know both of those words separately. This might be getting into spoilery territory, but looks like it says lyrically it tackles themes of misconnections, the tension between the inner and the outer self, and the lonely ache of watching things end. It sounds very appropriate for the times we're living in. I can relate. Alright, well, I don't want to go too much deeper. I think this gives me a pretty good context. So we'll leave it at that. I'll go ahead and pull up the album and we'll give it a listen. So yeah, this is going to be my reaction to Punisher by Phoebe Bridgers. Let's go. Opening track is called DVD Menu. Is this conceptualized as a sort of a film? Like, not that it's a soundtrack, but it's like the album itself is meant to be taken in like a film would be taken in? It is a clever way of titling an intro, by the way. Like, so many albums, the first song is just called intro. Very low-key and mellow so far.
Someday I'm gonna live in your house up on the hill. You should see it. I mean thousands. I grew up here till it all went up.
Man, I already really like her voice a lot.
I don't know when you got taller. See our reflection in the water.
It's interesting how loud in the mix her voice is compared to the, you know, instrumental underneath it. Like, the music is so faint compared to her voice.
Just like the doctor put her hands over my liver. She told me my resentment's getting smaller. No, I'm not.
Like how you can measure resentment by the liver. Does that mean she's drinking less because she's less resentful? I'm not afraid of hard work. That's a pretty strong line. Because when you think about it, you know, so many people kind of self-sabotage and could be more successful if they'd work harder. And the reason that they're not working harder, it's not because they're lazy, it's because there's this anxiety that comes with the idea of becoming successful and the burdens of success, you know? Ooh, yeah. I'm a big fan of horns, woodwinds, just such a good way to spice up rock music. Stare at the chemtrails. Yeah, I'm really digging her voice. So good. Yeah, that was a very different vibe from that previous track. So I was expecting that it was going to be, you know, pretty minimal like the previous track, but man, it just started to build, and there was some really good swells, especially that transition into the chorus. Just, I really like when music does that, when it builds that momentum. You feel the drive of it, the propulsion of it, and, you know, it just culminates in like the boom, 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 boom. You know, I don't listen to a whole lot of indie rock, especially at least more on the folky side of indie rock. But one band that I am a really big fan of, and they're more on the chamber pop side of things, but pretty similar sound here, is the band San Fermin. Yeah, it reminded me of, in particular, the song Bar from San Fermin's first album. Like that, it just has this sort of, you know, the vocal delivery and the lyrics are sort of really bittersweet if you break it down, but the music underneath it has this sort of kind of gliding, uplifting, almost victorious quality to it. This part right here. Yeah, so a similar vibe there of that kind of like that swell and that uplift. You know, it's, I don't know, something about that just, it gives me chills when I hear that sort of progression.
And the speed kicks in. I go to the store.
When the speed kicks in. And these lyrics are pretty hardcore so far. He's talking about staring at chemtrails and the speed kicking in.
If your favorite thing's Dianetics or stucco, I love a good place to hide in plain sight.
That's city dwelling in a nutshell. It's a good place to move if you want to hide in plain sight.
I swear I'm not angry, that's just my face. A copycat killer.
Swear I'm not angry, that's just my face.
Either I'm careless or
These lyrics are strong. And Halloween. Is this why she's wearing that outfit in the album cover? Like it's one of those old-fashioned skeleton costumes.
I hate living by the hospital. The sirens go all night. I used to joke that if they woke you up, somebody better be dying.
It's kind of dark, but I've had that thought when I've been stuck in traffic.
Baby, it's Halloween.
What are your top favorite Halloween songs, by the way? I really like Halloween by the Dead Kennedys. It's a pretty fun Halloween song.
Be whatever you want.
The more I stare at this album cover, I'm just really just digging the overall vibe of it. I'm not sure where this was taken, but I just love the fact that she's wearing that just old-timey, old-fashioned Halloween, you know, skeleton costume. But then just like the sky, the night sky in this photo is just so cosmic looking. But then like the bright red lights, like it makes me think like she's staring up at a UFO that's about to abduct her out in the middle of the desert. Which I'd feel a little embarrassed if I got abducted by aliens and I was wearing a Halloween costume. I'd be like, I'm not a good representative of the human race. Sorry, you got the wrong guy.
With the same 3 songs over and over.
This music almost has an ASMR quality to it, if I'm being honest.
Took a tour to see
Ooh, like that little change up.
stars, but they weren't out tonight. So I wished hard on a Chinese satellite.
That's such a great line. The stars weren't out, so I wished on a Chinese satellite. So good.
Sometimes when I can't sleep, it's just a matter of time before I'm hearing things, but that's impossible. I want to believe if I go outside, I'll see a tractor beam coming to take me to where I'm from.
Ooh, yeah. That was definitely my favorite song so far on this album. That was strong. Like, one thing this album's been really good at so far is, it's had a really strong control of dynamics and of quiet, but it's been, more, I'd say more on the quiet and mellow and minimalistic side. And this song was just, still brought that, but also brought some heaviness and some volume. I just really love that transition and the build of it. That was just, that was chef's kiss. It's funny, and I was just talking about this, I think right before the song started, about how the album cover looks like she's being abducted by aliens. And then here, I have the lyrics pulled up as I'm listening, and, she says that she wishes she could go outside and see a tractor beam coming from, the sky to take her home. And so I'm guessing that is what is being presented on this album cover, is a vision of that happening. So I wasn't too far off. I really like when an album cover actually references the lyrics themselves, and there's that relationship that, like, oh yeah, there was some thought put into this.
You asked to walk me home, but I had to carry you. You couldn't have stuck your tongue down the throat of somebody like a dog with a bird at your door. We fall about John Lennon until I cried.
I wonder what the context was of that fight.
You are sick and you're married and you might be dying, but you're holding me like water in your hands. You know the killer doesn't understand.
Ooh, that's deep.
Turn me on, turn me down, baby, you're a vampire. All the skeletons you hide, show me yours, and I'll show you mine.
Alright, is this reading too much into it? But she's saying that this person, who's, I'm guessing her partner, hides all of their skeletons, and she's wearing the skeleton costume, saying that this person, that she's saying that she feels hidden by this person, shoved away in a closet, neglected.
Show me yours.
Just gonna leave that line hanging. Love it. I see you. Which is, of course, the intensive care unit in a hospital. Does this tie back to her living next to a hospital?
I've been playing dead my whole life, and I get this feeling whenever I feel good, it'll be the last time. I hate your mom. I hate it when she opens her mouth. It's amazing to me how much you can say when you don't know what you're talking about. But I feel something when I see
2021 captured in a song. Man, this feels so throwback to 90s alternative rock. This is right up my alley.
I feel something. I'll climb through the window again. Let the dystopian morning light pour in. I gotta go now. I know.
It's always sort of meta when the last track on an album says something like, I gotta go now. I know. I feel like the Beatles did that kind of thing a lot, where the last song was announcing that it's the last song, even if in some sort of roundabout meta sort of way.
Slot machines, fear of God, windows down, heater on. Everyone's convinced it's a government drone. An alien spaceship, either way, we're not alone. The billboard said the end is near. I turned around, there was nothing there. The end is here.
There we go. Ooh, that drum roll. That was my impression of the ending there. Wow, okay. That ended with a bang. And I really loved how, I've taken road trips, through Arizona, New Mexico, up through Colorado, through Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas. I've driven through all those parts of the country, and that whole last section of that last song just was describing that whole vibe perfectly. Just driving through all those parts of the country, the kind of things you see and the kind of things you hear. I related to that one pretty heavily. First caveat, giving my thoughts on this album, is I'm not usually, somebody who listens to a lot of singer-songwriter folk type of music. It's not that I don't like it, it's just not what I naturally gravitate to. It's rarely the first thing that I pick. It's rarely my primary mood in terms of what I want to listen to. I tend to favor music that has a lot more movement, a lot more percussion, music that gets me moving, just something with a groove that I can lock into, So, obviously the fact that a lot of times singer-songwriter music lacks percussion, that kind of keeps me away from it sometimes. That said, whenever I do find myself connecting with folk music, the things that really draw me in is lyrics that have a sense of humor, in particular a dark sense of humor, or sort of like kind of gallows humor to them. And then the other thing I really like is lyrics that can paint sort of a very simple, or at least deceptively simple portrait, but when you dig a little deeper, you realize like, oh, something much deeper is being said. And I'm still thinking about the lyric where she talks about, you know, a dog bringing a dead bird to your door because it likes you. And, you know, that is such a specific, clear visual thing. But at the end, she brings it around and closes with the line, "The killer doesn't understand." It makes you go, oh, okay, you know, this whole song is about relationships. And in that context, it's like basically saying that this partner who's maybe a bad partner in some way, you know, who hurts you in some way, like that's just that person's nature and you're not going to change them. You know, the killer doesn't understand. So it's just kind of this mournful, like there's things I like about this person, but at the end of the day, this person has this fundamental flaw that I'm not going to fix and I'm not going to change. So it's just that heartbreaking realization that, oh, I got to get away from this person. You know, there's just a toxicity that's just not going to be fixed because the killer doesn't understand. You know, it's doing things that it thinks you want or that it thinks is an, you know, expression of love or affection. But at the end of the day, it's toxic or it's traumatic, you know. Yeah, just taking a simple lyric like that and twisting it and giving it such a deeper meaning. So that way, this album was actually pretty similar to another singer-songwriter folk album that I listened to as part of this reaction series, and that was by BC Camplight. Shortly After Takeoff was the name of the album. He also had a knack for spinning a really clever, darkly humorous line. And same thing, you know, just making these poignant statements that are just deceptively simple but have a lot of poignancy and depth to them. So I really enjoyed that album, and I really enjoyed this album. For those reasons, that they sort of scratch the itch that I'm looking for whenever I do listen to singer-songwriter folk music. For what this album is and for what it was going for, I thought it was successful pretty much in every aspect. Just like I said, as a personal preference, I'm just not much of a singer-songwriter folk listener. So, you know, will I listen to this album again? Probably not in full. But there were some tracks that really did catch my attention. Chinese Satellite, that track, that was phenomenal. Something about that just really grabbed me. In the closing track, I Know the End, again, that was just another one that lyrically really hooked me in, but then also musically really hooked me in. So yeah, there was definitely some strong tracks, you know, that even got my attention as somebody who doesn't normally listen to this kind of music. So I can imagine if you are into this sort of music, singer-songwriter folk music, that, yeah, I can see why this album is so highly rated. I could see why people would absolutely love this album. Let me know in the comments what you think. If you're a fan of Phoebe Bridgers, what are your favorite tracks on this album? I wonder if her fans prefer the more sparse and, you know, melancholic songs, or do they like the more upbeat, you know, the more drum-heavy songs that are on this album? I definitely have my preference, but it'd be interesting to know what, you know, her fans think. So yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for me for today. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. And if you want to follow along with more of my 2020 album reactions, go ahead and hit that subscribe button and ring the bell for notifications. And obviously, once I'm done with the series, I'm gonna keep the album reactions coming, so stick around. Anyway, this has been Good Movies and Music. My name's AJ. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.